As the 2026 WNBA season reaches the midpoint of its early stretch, one matchup looms larger than any other on this week's schedule: the Golden State Valkyries hosting the Indiana Fever at Chase Center. The game is set for Saturday, June 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it carries the unmistakable weight of a contest that means something, not just in the standings, but in the broader narrative of where women's professional basketball is heading in America. This is not merely a regular season game between two competitive franchises. It is a collision of styles, stars, fan bases, and ambitions. On one side stands the Fever, the league's most talked about team over the past 2 seasons, fueled by the extraordinary popularity of Caitlin Clark and a roster that has matured into a genuine Eastern Conference threat. On the other stands Golden State, the league's newest franchise, built with deliberate intention and quietly establishing itself as one of the most dangerous teams in the Western Conference. Two worlds meet this Saturday, and the basketball world will be paying close attention. Entering the week, the WNBA standings tell a compelling story. The Minnesota Lynx lead the Western Conference at 12-3, but the Golden State Valkyries are right behind them at 10-5, sitting third in the overall league standings and firmly in the conversation for the top seed race. For a franchise in just its second year of existence, this is a remarkable achievement. A testament to the front office's construction of the roster and the coaching staff's ability to instill both discipline and creativity. The Indiana Fever, meanwhile, sit at 9-6 in the Eastern Conference, third in their conference behind the New York Liberty, 11-4, and the Atlanta Dream, 10-4. The Fever have been one of the league's most exciting and occasionally frustrating teams to watch. Their ceiling is unmistakably high. Their floor, on nights when turnovers pile up and the three-point shooting goes cold, can be uncomfortably low. But on their best nights, Indiana looks like a team capable of beating anyone in the league. This Saturday represents an opportunity for either team to make a statement. A Fever win in Golden State would reinforce Indiana's growing credibility as a cross-conference contender. A Valkyries victory would further cement Golden State's claim to being the most complete team in the Western Conference outside of Minnesota. The Valkyries come into this matchup in strong form, having won 3 of their last 4 games. Their most recent victory arrived on Wednesday, June 17th, when they handled the Dallas Wings 91-80 at Chase Center. Before that, they knocked off the Los Angeles Sparks 78-58 on Monday, a dominant defensive performance that underscored one of Golden State's most underappreciated qualities. They are exceptionally difficult to score against when locked in, but it was their earlier result against the Seattle Storm on Friday, June 12th, that offered the most complete picture of this team's identity. The Valkyries won 76-72 in a game that was tighter than the final score suggests. Golden State led by as many as 15 points in the third quarter, then had to survive a fourth-quarter Storm rally to close it out. The final period saw the Valkyries outscore Seattle 26-15 in the third, before holding on as Seattle cut it to 4. It was a gritty performance, and the numbers underneath it were revealing. Janelle Salan was the standout performer, finishing with 22 points on 50% shooting from the field and 41.7% from three-point range. She added 7 rebounds and was a +9 on the night, making her one of the most efficient forwards in the league over the past few weeks. Tiffany Hayes contributed 17 points on 55.6% shooting, getting to the free throw line 7 times and converting all 7, a continuation of her role as one of the league's most reliable secondary scorers. Veronica Burton ran the offense with the poise of a veteran point guard, posting 11 points and 8 assists against just 3 turnovers. Her ability to create for others while still posing a scoring threat, gives the Valkyries a dimension that many teams struggle to replicate. Gabby Williams, one of the more complete two-way players in the WNBA, chipped in 19 points and provided the defensive pressure that disrupted Seattle's primary ball handlers throughout the contest. Perhaps most encouraging for Golden State heading into Saturday is the bench production. Against Seattle, the Valkyries bench outscored Seattle's bench 40-16, a staggering differential that reflects the depth this franchise has quietly assembled. When the starters are not at their best, Golden State has demonstrated the ability to survive on backup production alone. The Fever's form, brilliant but volatile. Indiana's recent run has been a study in contrasting performances. The Fever followed up an impressive 85-75 victory over the Connecticut Sun on June 13th, where Caitlin Clark erupted for 25 points on 58.8% shooting, including 5 three-pointers on 10 attempts. With a 113-91 dismantling of the Toronto Tempo 4 days later. Those results were convincing and spoke to a team in high gear. However, the week concluded with a deflating 108-101 home loss to the Atlanta Dream on Thursday, June 18th. That result raised familiar concerns about the Fever's defensive consistency and their vulnerability on nights when opponents exploit their turnover-prone tendencies. Indiana committed 19 turnovers in their win over Connecticut, an alarming figure that they managed to overcome only because of elite shooting. And while Clark's performance was electric, the structural issues that have followed this team all season remain present. The good news for Indiana is that this team's offensive firepower is genuinely elite. Caitlin Clark's season has been nothing short of extraordinary. Her combination of three-point creation, pull-up shooting, and playmaking has drawn consistent comparisons to the best point guards in the game's history. Against Connecticut, she shot 5 for 10 from 3 and converted every difficult mid-range attempt the defense dared to give her. She distributed the ball intelligently, and her 15 plus-minus in that game showed how dramatically the Fever's fortunes rise and fall with her performance. Around Clark, the Fever have genuine contributors. Kelsey Mitchell provides a second explosive scoring option off the wing, combining speed and finishing ability in a way that very few perimeter defenders can contain. Aaliyah Boston remains one of the most fundamentally sound post players in the league. Her double-double performance against Connecticut, 13 points and 11 rebounds, was a reminder of how essential she is to Indiana's balance. Monique Billings has been a revelation in her reserve role, posting efficiency numbers that suggest she deserves more attention than she typically receives from the basketball media. But the turnovers remain the defining tension point. Against Connecticut, Clark alone committed 6 turnovers, even as she produced the best individual shooting performance of the game. If Golden State, with Burton, Williams, and Kaya Stokes disrupting passing lanes, forces even 5 or 6 extra turnovers from Indiana on Saturday, the game could look very different from the box scores Indiana fans have grown accustomed to seeing. The key matchups that will define the game: Caitlin Clark versus the Valkyries' defensive scheme. This is the central storyline of the game and, frankly, one of the most compelling individual matchups the WNBA has offered all season. Golden State's defense has been built around team principles rather than individual stoppers, which actually makes it more difficult to exploit. There is no obvious weak link to attack, no switching mistake that opens a driving lane. Burton and Williams will likely be asked to disrupt Clark's rhythm at the point of creation, preventing her from getting into her spots early. Clark's response to defensive pressure has varied this season. On her best nights, She finds the escape valve pass before the trap closes and lets teammates create. On her harder nights, she forces the issue, and the turnovers mount. Golden State will attempt to make this one of those harder nights. Burton has been one of the league's most dangerous players in transition this season. She finds gaps in coverage at a rate that most point guards cannot match, and her fast break finishing has given the Valkyries an additional dimension on offense that is difficult to prepare for. Indiana's transition defense has been inconsistent. If Burton and Williams are pushing pace against the Fever's scrambling defense, Golden State could generate a meaningful number of easy baskets. Salon has evolved into one of the most dangerous three-point threats at the forward position in the entire league. Her ability to space the floor while also attacking closeouts makes her nearly impossible to scheme against. In isolation, Indiana's perimeter defenders will need to make a genuine commitment to contesting her looks without giving up driving lanes in the process. That balance is easier described than achieved. Boston operating in the post against Kaya Stokes and the Valkyries' help defense will be one of the quieter but enormously important subplots of the game. Boston's post positioning and footwork create mismatches that generate not just field goal attempts, but free throw opportunities. Golden State was whistled for 18 personal fouls against Seattle, and if Indiana's forwards can draw similar foul trouble early, it changes Golden State's defensive rotations meaningfully. Both teams come into this matchup with something to prove. Golden State wants to demonstrate that it belongs in the same conversation as Minnesota as a genuine Western Conference championship contender. Indiana wants to show that its inconsistency over the past week, particularly that loss to Atlanta, was an aberration rather than a symptom. The win probability data currently favors the Valkyries in their upcoming matchup against the Minnesota Lynx, 43.3% GSV, 56.7% Lynx, which contextualizes just how difficult Golden State's position is in the Western Conference. A victory over the Fever would not merely be a statement game. It would be a step forward in establishing Golden State as a team with championship-level ambitions, not just playoff-level ones. For Indiana, the road is rarely kind. The Fever are 35.7% favorites in their upcoming game against Atlanta, suggesting odds makers see this team as talented but vulnerable away from home. If that pattern holds against Golden State, the Valkyries should find themselves in a favorable position. Expect a competitive 40 minutes. Clark will produce. She almost always does. But the Valkyries' defensive system, combined with the superior bench depth that Golden State demonstrated against Seattle, should give the home team enough of an advantage to close the game out. Look for Salon to be the difference maker once again, and for Burton's playmaking to keep the Valkyries' offense running smoothly against Indiana's pressure. This matchup, more than any other game on the WNBA slate this week, represents everything the league has become: competitive, star-driven, strategically sophisticated, and unmistakably must-watch. Clear your Saturday morning schedule.